Alrighty. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics / Non Classics. This is episode number 1513 and Doubleshot number 1407. I have two volumes of the current volume of the Fantastic Four. First up it is Fantastic Four Volume 5 Point of Origin. Collecting Fantastic Four Volume, let's see, I think this is volume 6 if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, it's 6. Yep, volume 6. Issues 14 to 20. Writer is Dan Slott, still. As a matter of fact, still the current writer. Has not changed the writer at all. And the artwork is mostly done by Paco Medina, who does issues 14, 15, 18, 20. With these other artists in these issues, 16, 17, and 19 is done by Sean Iziki. Bob Quinn does issues 15 and 17. Co-does with Paco Medina for that 15. 17, Lucia Benico. 17, 18, Carlos Magano. And 18 is done by Francisco Mana. The cover art for the trades is most of the issues. The cover art here, this is done by Mike Dito Jr., Robert Fargo Jr., Nick Bradshaw. By the way, the first two, yeah, they did for issue 14, and the rest is done by Nick Bradshaw and John Roosh. Now, Point of Origin starts off with the Richards family, along with Johnny Storm and the Thing, go to sea kind of in a way. I don't know if this is the actual rocket that, because it's kind of implied by Reed Richards that this was the very rocket that he and the rest of Fantastic Four used to go into space to get affected by the cosmic rays way back in the original Fantastic Four #1. It's implied this rocket ship is that particular one. Now, I highly doubt it. If anybody's ever read that issue, this rocket ship looks completely different. One thing, it's all black, because I have seen pictures of actual rockets that was launched back in the 60s. I have seen an actual rocket. I've actually seen the Saturn V rocket that actually launched a lot of the actual famous Apollo mission capsules from the 60s. I have seen that because I've been to Cape Canaveral. And look at this thing. This rocket ship is apparently, it's implied to be that particular one. Also, and I've got to point this out, though, is it just me, or is that Valerie, Richards, and Franklin look a bit older now than they were? Like, Valerie looks like she's about, I'd say about 10, 11-ish maybe. Franklin is obviously mid-teens, because it seems as though they've really kind of aged up these two. I mean, she's not 3 anymore. No, because in the Hickman run, it was mentioned, I believe at the end of the Hickman run, that she was 3 years old. And in the case of Robinson, she was slightly older. Here, she looks like she's probably pushing her early teens, I'd say. Franklin looks like he's in high school. That's what it looks to me in Paco Medina, how he's drawing it. And of course, the Thing himself basically can't help but and apparently, get this, the rocket is called Marvel 1. I don't know if it's a nod to the fact that this was that was the first appearance of Fantastic Four was the start of the Silver Age for Marvel Comics. For DC, it was debut of the Flash. And I love this. This actually was really smart on the artists to do. They actually took the time to recreate actual panels from the original Fantastic Four #1. I don't know if this is the actual. I don't think, from what I can tell by the way the art style is done here, I don't think this is basically Paco Medina taking panel from the original Fantastic Four #1 and put it in here on this page. I think he actually took inspiration from the style Jack Kirby was drawing for this here, and well, I gotta hand it to him. Great job, Paco. That actually was a really good job. And let's get hands to it. And of course, then we meet up with apparently Duke Dutchman, and Sandy Sanders. I'm not kidding, that's what these two are called. And these two look like much more older people, per se. And it's revealed kind of that Johnny and Stu actually took their spots on this very shuttle, on this very flight. But the way that it's written here is that they're not bitter about it. They're actually very grateful for them doing that, because if it hadn't been for them, they would not be able to have families and careers. I'm like, okay. I don't. Of course, this is years later. I'm sure he probably, of course, I like the fact that Slott wrote it that these two are very much have remorse of what they did, but it's perfectly fine. They accept their apology. He did us a favor. And then, of course, Sandy decides to insult Ben Grimm. And then they decide to fly out in the old bathtub. Yes, that is literally what this thing is. This thing here. This is actually the very first vehicle the Fantastic Four ever drove. This was the Fantastic Four. This is the Fantastic Mobile Mark I, aka the bathtub. Though it's a markup improvement over that. So they decided to, in a way, go back up into space. Oh yeah, and plus I love the fact they have sort of a flashback to the 60s, which really nice that was done there. And so they kind of come to the idea of using the very same rocket to go back into space. I don't think to recreate the actual experiment per se, but it's not exactly the same rocket. So they have the Marvel 2. Yes, so they basically recreated the same rocket, but it's updated. Yes. And of course, you have the Thing put on a very similar outfit that he wore when he was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, when he goes back up into space. And inside the craft, it's more like, it's based upon like the classic Apollo designs, what I could tell, but it's basically the cockpit is bigger, much bigger. I've seen pictures of the Apollo 11 capsules, and the cockpit that they were in was very cramped from what I can tell. So it looked like, though, they couldn't exactly move around very much in there. Not really, no. It's not like these guys could easily, like the way it is with the space shuttle, where they can basically have a little more room to walk on, to get up, and, well, it was simply put almost like a tight fit. And each cockpit can only fit 3 people in it. And yet, the way that they presented this is that this cockpit fit 4 people. The way the Apollo ones were designed, they fit usually about 3. But only 2 of the astronauts can actually, well, a lot of the time the astronauts can only 2 go to the moon with 1 up in orbit. They usually have like a module that they bring down with them down to the surface of the moon. That's the way it was back then. So they go off into space. And then with the very next issue, we have sort of a planet where people are affected by the cosmic rays. Some in a good light, some in a very bad light. And then the Fantastic Four show up and they start a brief battle with them. And thanks, of course, to universal translators. Yes, seriously, Fantastic Four invented those things. So you have this woman, her name is Sky. She becomes important in this story. How they proclaim, they have this thing called, after everything's all settled down, they're brought to the leader, who's known as the Overseer. And as soon as they get there, they're slapped with basically, you have Reed and Sue immediately forced to put on their arms these metal armbands. What are these armbands? Soul bonds. Because soulmates. Yeah, the whole thing with Destiny soulmates thing, it is something that it's not like an alien concept per se. It's made for fiction. Some people actually believe in actually finding their own soulmate. I I do not have an opinion upon that, but I think it's a good opinion. That's just how I feel about it. If I personally find my own soulmate, good for me. If anybody finds their own soulmate, good for you. It's your destiny. So, of course, well, the thing is, who does not get one, because technically he has one. His wedding ring. He explains, like, he does need the soul bond. He does need it because he shows off his wedding ring. He says, I have a woman on my planet, basically, who is mine. Yeah, he mentions that, which I think is so awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is so funny the way they end issue 16. Where Johnny Storm wakes up in a woman's bed. He's got this armband on. It's not a tramp stamp. You're awake. The bird girl, Sky. Now do you understand one another? You sure my name is Sky. And you are? Johnny Storm. Quick questions. What's going on? Where are my clothes? And what's with a big old bracelet? It's called soul bonding. Just like mine. That means Johnny Storm. Even though you and I are different worlds, we're soulmates. What? Yeah, this is typical Dan Slott humor. He actually can be kind of funny if you read a lot of his other books. I mean, one of the most funniest books I've ever read was She-Hulk. That was hilarious. Yeah, people tend to crap on him for his Spider-Man work, but at least he freaking enjoyed writing it from what I've heard. Yeah, he enjoyed writing the damn book. That's why he stuck on the book for so long. This stuff, like, all the readers told him to leave because they hated some of the garbage he was putting out. He clearly loved it. So, we'll show off the awesome, and of course, Reed and Sue get theirs because they're obviously married. Yeah, and of course, here he shows off his obvious wedding ring that he's got on his ring finger, which I think is so awesome. And where's that awesome? Now, they try to have, looks like they try to recreate, like, so apparently, the Overseer, because he turned the cosmic rays as own people, Reed got to admit this, that this guy was indirectly responsible for creating that Fantastic Four. And he says, correct. I don't have a really big problem with this because the cosmic rays were one thing that I think even Stan Lee did even basically properly explain. I mean, they showed up for issue 1, and then here's something really strange though. If you read any Fantastic Four comic that came out after issue 1, there was mention of the cosmic rays. Didn't make any physical appearances even afterwards. I think like once. And that was to turn Sharon Valeria into She-Thing. Aside from those two things, yeah, you don't really like hear anything brought up about them at all. And you're thinking, really? Yes, really. The cosmic rays have only been brought up, like I said, once after that, and then you bring them up here. This, I think in my opinion of this, with the cosmic rays thing, is that it's a bit of a retcon and an expansion upon something basically that I think Stan Lee set it up back in issue 1, but it wasn't properly explained. That's just my opinion on the matter. Other people might feel something else about it, but the thing is, that retcon did get Dan saw a lot of flack for this book. It's what happened in issue 25. They got him a lot of flack. I'll discuss that when the trade paperback comes out for that. Again, oh boy, I'm going to have some distinct discuss with that one. Oh, by the way, they also reveal that they have on Voyage Fantastic Four. One of the characters is called Sidearm, along with, well, Sky, of course, and there's a couple others. So, they bring up something that Ben Grimm can actually do. Once a year, every year, he can turn back into a human. And basically, the way that is described by him is that they can do it. I mean, Reed, Sue, and Johnny Storm don't need it. They turn to human, no problem. It's just basically Ben Grimm. And then, aside from that, we briefly come back to Earth, where we go to Oklahoma, and we see the return of Wyatt Wagfoot. Here's a question for you. When was the last time Wyatt Wagfoot ever appeared in a Fantastic Four comic book? Let me look it up for you, because it's a very interesting question. Like, when was the last official time that we had this character actually pop up in this story? Because he didn't pop up in James Robinson's run. Nope, not the issues I read. I don't think he popped up during Hickman's run. No, not that I could think of. Let's see. Okay, he did pop up briefly, for a few issues prior to this. He was kind of a recurring character. But prior to this run, the last time he physically appeared in the book was actually back in... Oh, okay, he did appear in some James Robbins. I kind of forgot he appeared in some James Robbins issues, but... Yeah, so... Basically, in the way, we actually have sort of a dispute going on between Raxon and, well... Wyatt folks in North America, his Native American tribe, and their frequent disagreements with Raxon. So, they say he's the chief of this tribe, and according to a scientist who basically, actually, I think it was a scientist who was a Native American, did some detailed reports about what's going on, whether they're digging just too deep and they're going to subterranean underground, and then the ground shakes. And then we have these strange hands. So I will discuss that in a minute. Because it is quite far one of the most interesting things. And they tried to devise, and of course some people were against it. And then eventually they're able to go back home. And of course, to go back home, of course, Sky decided to join them. Just cuz. Oh, and who showed up to Wyatt Wagfoot's reservation? The Mutoid. Well, it's Mole Man's people. Yeah. Mole Man's people. And I think it's so funny that they open up issue 20. It's like, for Yant Street, for the past 2 weeks, who has been unsupervised home of Valerie Richards, the smartest girl in the world, which that is definitely true, and her brother, the most powerful boy in the multiverse. That'll be disputed in issue 25. Yep. So, talk about soulmates and... Yeah, and apparently Reed finds out, though, apparently there's been some parties thrown at this place. Not one, not two, but 5 parties over the course of 2 weeks. How the heck? It's and of course Sue is but Reed, this place is spotless. Exactly, down to molecular level. What would children on Earth be cleaning up this thoroughly? Remember, Villia, just because you're smarter than your dad doesn't mean he's an idiot. And of course you have Sue saying, kids, go to your rooms. Your father and I need to talk after I turn your tablet's electronics invisible. Ooh. All because they had parties. Yep, and then of course then we have the stuff with the mole people. which doesn't only last for like an issue. And then we have the Mole Man himself show up, which is so awesome. He's a character I think who hasn't appeared in a long time. But this story is utterly fantastic. I give this one a 10 out of 10. It's just really good. I thoroughly enjoy it. Next up, Volume 6. Empyre. Though, despite the fact this does contain issues 21 to 24 of Fantastic Four Volume 6, it also contains Empyre number 0 and Empyre Fallout Fantastic Four. Of course, Dan Slott is the writer of the book. Does Paco Medina do the artwork in here? Yes, he does issues 23 and 24. He does pretty much just the main issues per se, with Sean Eastke, who does also the Empyre Zero Fantastic Four and Empyre Fallout. R.B. Silva does Fantastic Four. Now, I have already discussed basically Empyre Zero and Fallout. I mean, I enjoyed Empyre. That was a really good event. I know some people didn't like it because they felt a bit confused with the plant people stuff. That was the Cote. Yeah, they were the alien species that I believe Steve Eckhart created these creatures. Yes. Now, in the main pages of Fantastic Four, we pretty much have revisited something that I don't think any person has seen since I believe not since the late 80s. The new Fantastic Four, which, if anybody's ever read issues, I think it was 341 to I think it was like 343, when they had where Johnny Storm, Mr. Fantastic, and it was Reed, Johnny, and the Thing were missing, so Sue decided to form a new Fantastic Four, comprised of Wolverine, Spider-Man, actually in the early 90s, the Hulk, and the Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. No, I'm not kidding about that. So, with Fantastic Four Off-World, and with the Cote basically invading the planet, they need some help. So, what do? They pretty much pull something out of Spider-Man the Animated Series, which I found to be so hilarious. Like, when I'm going to show this, of course, they also spend some Off-World with a Alien Casino. So, they need some help. Okay. Now, please tell me this is not basically this little, like, this is remind people of Spider-Man the Animated Series Secret Wars Episode 1. Yes, with the whole multi-screen thing. Oh, I love who's on this screen. We have the Winter Soldier, Falcon, Miss Marvel, the Vision, Daredevil, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Squirrel Girl, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and might be Sky. So they weren't exactly able to summon two more people. They wanted to basically form like a new Fantastic Four. So who do they summon? Spider-Man and Wolverine. Yep. So they're summoned to help basically deal with the alien threat. And of course Wolverine is back wearing a costume I do not like. I do not like the brown and yellow costume. I have never been a big fan of this costume. I'm not sure who at Marvel thought was the guy to put Wolverine back in this costume. I'm thinking though, like, if you're going to make Wolverine, put him in the Jim Lee costume because people love that. Or how about the Joss Whedon costume? People like not Joss Whedon, John Cassaday. People like his costume. Or the Manifest Destiny costume. Those costumes are great. I don't care about this costume. It doesn't look good on him. Some people like it, but I personally don't. So, yeah, trying to stop a tiger. So, they end up teaming up with them. And, of course, Spider-Man introduces herself to Sky. She's like, he's like, you are Sky from Planet Spire. How do you FF? I'm trying to start a soulmate. He's like, is what? He's talking about his soulmate. Yep. And after fighting the Dark Priest, after beating them up, yeah, and of course, well, he introduced himself as like, excuse me, Spidey, who are you and what exactly you're doing? I'm Spider-Man, close person friend at the FF, and what I'm doing is using my very annoying and non-specific danger sensing power, aka spider sense. I'm not sure why Dan saw it right of the way. It's freaking spider sense. Why the heck would he write it that way for? I have no freaking idea. Which means that with a metric ton of it out there, which means we're completely surrounded. Yeah. The whole thing with the soulmate thing is quite hilarious. So I think in the brawl with these priests, and of course, there's even a flashback to, I kid you not, the original Captain Marvel, Marvel. Like, wow, that is so awesome. So they basically are shocked the fact that New Fantastic Four back. So they go back to 4 Yancey Street, and Rita, of course, basically says, okay. So it's like, interesting. Our family is aiding the Kree. The Skrull and the Avengers against overwhelming power of the Cote. Sounds like you 4 are facing up against their most powerful allies, the priests of whom are not taken lightly. Sounds up. The powerful we're talking mind plants, plant powers, kung fu powers, and a nice wardrobe with clothes of rage and posted. Also, I think your device is. I don't think I activated your device correctly. But have to really summon 2 substitute members. You're right, dear. Need some fine tuning. Let me see you do something from my end. And he pops out 2 Fantastic Four costumes for Spider-Man and Wolverine. And here you go. The new Fantastic Four. Wolverine, Spider-Man, Valerie Richards, and Franklin Richards. I'm like, okay. So you have 2 geniuses and 2 mutants. I'm like, not a bad balance. I mean, 2 teenagers and 2 pro heroes. I mean, now you might be asking, who would be the obvious lead of this group? I would say it's probably Spider-Man. Because he's not only a veteran, he's also smart. He may not be smart when it comes to social issues, but he is smart when it comes to leadership and science. Yep, and then we have appearance by briefly of all things. Like, let me turn the panel on the side. You probably be noticing something here. Like, look what that says. The building says Alchemax. As in the building owned by Liz Allen, Harry Osborn's ex-wife and the mother of Norman Osborn's grandchild, Norman Osborn. So, and they're talking about the backs of the building. We'll get back for you. Maybe my pal Peter Parker, not like we own all of this. Building our company, lost overnight, knowing you, yeah. All the back splitting too, all gone. Waste of time here. What says a second here? She's brainstorming. Yep, and then she basically figures out that the priests are still this device, this very powerful device, and of course deal with the scrolls. And then we have, like, Reed Richards apparently in Iron Man armor, which I think is so hilarious. Yeah, look at this. You have Iron Man in a Fantastic Four style suit, which is, I think it's so cool. Yep. And of course, at the fighting these people. Yep. Everything's on hunky dory. Then we get to the Fallout, which of course were. You have Reed, of course, in the Iron Man suit. Like, good job. And of course, well, Sue thanks. I think it's Sue. Sue ends up thanking. Spider-Man Wolverine says, "Thanks for helping out. For pros like us, it was nothing." Yeah, and of course, Spider says, "Sue on the moon." I don't know him. That's so funny. And of course, Thing is like, "Baby, it's been weeks. Don't I get to kill a smooch? Sorry, honey. I think my tour is starting. This way." Tour of the moon. And of course, Hulkling is here. Of course, get the message that the Profiteer doesn't own the kids anymore. And then we have Wolverine doing this. Hold on, something's not right here. I got a feeling that we're being watched. And Thor's like, "Aye, over yonder, on that ridge. He's been there for a good while. Who was watching him? None other than Nick Fury, the Unseen. And of course, the constant weapon stuff on the moon, the stuff for the Profiteer. And of course, well, Franklin's automatically set to Fantastic Four. And Unseen basically does something interesting, though. And of course, there's some ashes of possibly humans. And of course, leave the weapons behind. And then we have the Avengers take on these foes. And talk about the Alliance. Yep. It's so cool. So, you have the Unseen pick up the weapons. Like, show me. There's line is technology's agent. Predates the Elders universe. Yes, Guardians. It's, my God, this from the first race. Something this I has seen since. And it's the Watcher shows up at the end. Yep. This does play a role in issue like 25. It's so cool. And then we have, well, then with the Aftermath, of course, we have Frank Rogers on Krakatoa because he's declared a mutant, so he'll have to go there. Yep, Iceman hanging out here. It's a fun issue. I mean, I personally love it. It's just really, really good stuff here for Fantastic Four. Yeah, I'm gonna give this book another 10 out of 10. This is just really good. I thoroughly enjoy this. Yep. Yeah, and I will be discussing Volume 7 when it comes out. And the stuff with issue 25. And then my friend Tibia, he did a review. He did basically discuss the thing going on in issue 25. But I was just my issue with that. But in the case of these two trades, they're just good. I love them. I decided to get these two trades because, now here's the thing. I have reviewed the first trades physically, but the volumes 3 and 4 I viewed digitally, and they didn't have next volume on there. Nope, they didn't. So I figured, though, get the physical copies. My local library finally got them, and now they got them, which I think is great. Now, this is quite strange, though. Like, Uatu's resurrection started off a series of resurrections of characters who were dead for a certain period of time. The Watcher had been dead at the time when he came back in Empyre Fallout Fantastic Four, which came out in December of last year, mind you. He had been dead for 6 years. 6 years. Long time. And then recently, we had a return of Flash Thompson. He had been dead for about 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years he had been dead. And then not long after that, I would say almost immediately after that, we had the resurrection of Electro. And he had been dead also for 6 years. I'm like, wow, what is up with these resurrections lately of characters who actually died? I mean, 2 of these characters were killed by Dan Slott. And then Dan Slott undoes something that Jason Aaron did, which was the death of the Watcher. Which, that is shocking nonetheless. And if anybody saw the image, like, what happened to Watcher's eye? The orb has it. I'm hoping that the Watcher sends, when he sends Nick Fury from the moon, he gives him, I have a task for you. Go find the orb and get back my eye. I would not be surprised if he actually told him to do that. Original Sin, if anybody is not ready yet, is an excellent crossover. It is so freaking good. The main story is utterly fantastic. Jason Aaron gives, like in the book, you actually have team-ups that no one ever expected to happen. Like, one of the best one, probably the best one in my opinion, is the Punisher meeting Rocket Raccoon. Where he basically compliments him on his gun. He's like, hey, Skullboy, nice gun. He's like, mine's bigger. Yeah. Of course, Jason Aaron is also good humor, too. Dan Slott might not be known to some people for his humor, but he is hilarious. But these 2 books, so fun. I personally love them. And I can't wait for Volume 7 to come out. Okay, so that's it for Stick Review. Next one, another Comic Corner, discussing Wonder Woman, And you'd be surprised which Wonder Woman story I'm talking about. Okay, next video. Bye.